can see it later on. Okay, so now I will share my screen and we can get started. Okay. So again, as I mentioned, tonight's industry hour is featuring the civil engineering major, and we have some great panelists here to have a conversation with. Um, I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be discussing tonight. The first thing that we cover is the Career Center on campus. They play an integral role in student success by offering support throughout your academic four-year studies here. They can assist with all sorts of functions, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And as I said, we also are going to introduce our panelists, and we're going to have a discussion in which students are welcome to ask questions as well. So first thing on the agenda is the Center for Career and Professional Development, aka CCPD. You'll hear us very often in the hub talk about the CCPD, and have you checked in with them yet? So we encourage all first year students to connect with the CCPD sooner than later. And these two are our advising counselors specific to the School of Engineering. We have Emily Seals and Kristen Kettering. Their contact information is on the screen. And I'm also happy to share that offline to anyone who's interested. Additionally, we have the services that they offer. A lot of it has to do with setting up appointments for career review. We have a career fair coming up next week, and we encourage first year students to attend, even if they don't feel comfortable in even communicating with some of the employers. Just going and learning more about the process is really helpful. Now, as far as the Career Center is concerned, they have drop-in hours. We also highly encourage students to set up their Handshake account because you can book formal meetings with the career staff. They do resume critiquing, so if you do have a resume that you would like to have reviewed, they're knowledgeable of the engineering focuses and also the language used to, grab the attention of certain employers. So that's super helpful. They even have a clothing closet. So if you were to attend at a career fair or you had an interview for a specific event and didn't have the appropriate attire, the Career Center actually offers those amenities that you can come in and try something on if you need a suit jacket or a certain type of blouse. They're generally there to assist. So we highly encourage you all to set up your account sooner than later via Handshake. Now, as far as civil engineering is concerned, this is just a sprinkling of some of the companies that the Career Center has a relationship with. A lot of students ask us who can employ, and you would think that Google or IBM might sound a little off, but a lot of the companies are interdisciplinary, hiring all areas of engineering rather than just one specific discipline. So it's important to not cut yourself short when you're doing the interview process. You would think that a certain company like Citi might not employ civil engineers. You might be wrong. So definitely, if you are looking for opportunities, um, check out the database of what the Career Center has and all the companies that civil engineers tend to have worked in the past. Now, as far as civil engineering salary statistics, this is the reporting class of 2022. It's always important to keep in mind that civil engineering is one of the smaller majors, so the range might be very specific to that specific class. But these are in comparison to the rest of the majors within the School of Engineering, and we're kind of in the middle as far as civil is concerned. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about the Career Center and what services they can provide to you, I want to introduce our industry hour panelists. I'm actually going to let them introduce themselves. So we're going to begin with Maureen. Can you tell me a little bit about who you are, when you graduated, and also like your work history? And I'm going to
All right.
stop sharing so everybody can actually see the real deal here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maureen Merson. I'm an RPI grad. I graduated in 2015, which doesn't seem that long ago to me, but it's starting to be a lot longer ago to the scale of how long you were in college, right? So I've worked in civil engineering since I graduated. Right out of school, I had an internship for a few months, and then I got a full-time position. And then I've bounced around a few different companies and doing a few different job titles since then.
Awesome. Bill, you want to?
Yeah. Hi everybody. Bill Gilbert here. I graduated from RPI in 2016 with both my bachelor's and master's degree. I was a co-term student there. Started working at AECOM right out of college, and I've been there ever since. I work in their transportation group as a structural engineer. So I've definitely had a big range of different civil engineering concentrations in my career so far. So, yeah.
Great. We look forward to hearing more about that. And for you, Matt?
So I'm Matt. I am actually doing co-term currently. I'll graduate in December with my master's. I just graduated in May with my undergrad. Um, and as far as work goes, every summer I've done kind of a different internship at a different company. So I really got to see a lot of different aspects of civil engineering before I go full time.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to start right with the questions. And if any questions do come up, you're more than welcome to put them in the chat on the side, or you can simply unmute your microphone at the end of the presentation when we have our Q&A section. So whatever you want to do with that. My first question is going to be for Maureen and Bill, and it's pretty much a basic question that most students ask us anyway. What made you decide to be a civil engineer?
So, is it all right if I go first, Bill?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. So, I got into civil engineering through like wanting to work on big projects that benefited the general population. I thought I wanted to do environmental engineering, or something related to water resources, because I'd grown up around a lot of water resource struggle in the Southwest, and I just wanted to kind of improve things. But I think once I got into civil engineering, understanding that it's a branch of engineering that the main focus is the safety, health, and welfare of the public is really, I think, what drew me in and what kept me going down the path while I was in college. Because I was kind of a little bit undecided. I didn't really know exactly what engineering branches were when I came in as a freshman.
Yeah, I started RPI as an undeclared, or what was that? I think it was still undeclared engineering back then. So, wasn't sure at first, but what ultimately sold me with civil was the fact that it seemed like it would be a nice balance of like office life, field life, and that you weren't like locked into one thing. There was a lot of mobility and, like I word it. Like it seems like you could take and change your life how you want to. You work in a factory, you might be locked in. So that's kind of like what sold me.
Great, thank you. And Matt, you mentioned to me that you came in as an undeclared engineer. Can you tell me a little bit about your process and how you decided on civil engineering?
Yeah, so I mean, I was also in Better World Engineering, attending every single industry hour, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But ultimately, I didn't want to be in the field full time and I didn't want to be stuck in an office. And after hearing the panelists of the civil engineering group, seeing that I can do both, and then you get to see a project from start to finish, like from the plans all the way to the construction, which I really like. I'm also a big Lego fan, so that was also something that sold me. But yeah, overall, that's why I chose civil engineering.
Awesome, thank you. So moving forward, we're going to talk about day-to-day functions. So for Maureen and Bill, what is the day-to-day function of your position or the industry in general?
So I do geotechnical engineering, which I like to tell people is I get to play in the dirt for my job. Um, but my day-to-day function currently is in the business development world. I write proposals, I try and find work for our whole team. But I didn't get there, I didn't start there. I had to go through kind of figuring out what I was good at in different technical roles in order to get here.
For me, my day to day very really varies by the job. I had a stint like 2 years ago where I was in the field full time for Amtrak as part of like a consulting contract we had with them. So like for that one, I was like every day drive to a job site, staying on the field all day. Currently, my role is more of a design role, so I'm doing hand calcs, I'm doing drafting, um, mainly bridge design right now. So like doing all the structural analysis that goes with it, the drafting, the figuring out details, a lot of computer work, but it's like definitely more piques my interest, I'd say. Um, yeah.
Awesome. And the next question applies to Maureen and Bill again. Um, for a student who might be looking for a job or an internship, what is, can you tell us about the job titles and roles that your industry has?
Well, I can speak to geotechnical engineering specifically. I can also kind of speak to civil engineering broadly. I think there's a lot of similar structure and how the roles play out. A lot of times you come in, you don't have any licensure, and you're a junior engineer or a field engineer, something like that. I started out as completely in the field. I was a field engineer. And then you kind of have the option after getting some initial experience to go down a management track and start like managing projects and that sort of thing, or going down a technical track and really diving in on details and then becoming more of a technical expert. And I think the roles and responsibilities and the titles kind of start to diverge based on what you decide you like.
Yeah, I think Maureen pretty much summed it up pretty cohesively there. I can't really add anything to that.
Okay, that's totally fair and that's helpful, especially because, if a student's looking at a job title and it says junior engineer or an engineer in training or something along those lines, I think it's helpful to know what the entry level positions are named for that purpose. Um, so again, for Maureen and Bill, and I have a follow-up question for Matt after, what is your favorite part of your day currently as an engineer? Maureen, you want to start with that one?
Sure. I love that I get to solve different problems that I don't even know the full scope of on a daily basis. That may be slightly more unique to geotechnical engineering. I like to think that it is because if you think about the material properties and kind of defining soils, it's not a straightforward sort of a thing. It's not as well defined as, say, I don't know, other materials that we have human interaction involved with. The soils are just kind of there that you don't tend to change them too much. Um, so I like that, like, also with geotechnical engineering, it tends to be a smaller branch of civil. So people who are in geotech usually have to have the capability to wear many hats because usually you're working with a smaller team. So, like, even though my role is mostly business development, I still have to go out in the field and do inspections or fill in on project management or, be someone who checks someone else's calculations. So I think the diversity in the problems I get to look at and solve is really really what I enjoy most.
It's a tough question, but I mean, one thing that always piques my interest is like, especially with bridges. More often than not, you're building or rehabbing old bridges, right? And not always building from scratch. So you're always dealing with having to like research old record plans, and I always find it's kind of interesting when you're going through looking at drawings that somebody like drew like 100 years ago, and here you are today like rehabbing it, and you see all the antique stuff, and it's kind of cool to see how it goes through years and all the hands. Like I think one guy I work with, he's probably in his 70s now. Like we were working on some bridge job, and like it was his first boss from when he was a entry level engineer like 50 years ago. So it's kind of cool to like have see that like historical continuity throughout the years. I always find it interesting.
That's awesome. Thank you for both sharing. Now, Matt, we know you're not officially working as a civil engineer. You're still finishing up your degrees. However, can you tell us about a favorite experience you had in an internship?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked at different companies, but I really liked when I worked at Bowler doing a land development position, and I really got to do a lot of drafting, which I got very good at Civil 3D, which as great as the one credit CAD class we have here, um, it does a little better job in an internship. But I got to have access to lots of different things, all different trainings, and I got to really learn more about what goes into land development, which RPI doesn't have kind of that program. So it's really great I really enjoyed learning about something that you don't see in the classroom too much.
Awesome. Thank you. I think I've had a lot of feedback from students that have done internships who have come back and said, this is exactly what I was looking for, and I'm so happy that I had it, you know. And then there's some that come back from an internship that was like, now I know what I don't want to do. So I kind of feel like the role of an internship during your undergrad career is super helpful just to help you kind of figure out your path and confirm that you're on the right one. So thank you all for sharing. Now, we talked a little bit about academics and how within the civil engineering program, students are required to pursue a concentration in one of the following subjects, one being transportation, we mentioned structural, Maureen mentioned geotech and water resource engineering, and we also have environmental engineering. Now, for Maureen and Bill, how would you classify the type of work you do as a civil engineer? And do you feel like the disciplines overlap?
The kind of work I do definitely fits into the geotech niche. Um, and the geotech niche is kind of interesting in that it doesn't ever stand alone. It has to support other work. It's never something that anyone just wants just the geotech done at a site. So yes, there's definitely overlap and a lot of working together and collaborating no matter what you end up getting into.
Yeah, I'd agree too. And being a structural engineer and probably a larger company, I've done a lot of stuff. Like what structures like geotech usually goes hand in hand when you're designing foundations. I've worked also in support roles for environmental projects. So when they go and remediate hazardous waste sites, there's usually structures on them. So like I'll go out into the field and inspect structures before we start digging around them or try to identify issues. I worked a little bit with water resources. Like no matter what you do, I feel like it's like contracts are gonna come and go depending upon the need. So it's always seizing opportunity. Like I've worked on some dam ratings before, and being in the transportation group, obviously most of what I do is transportation based stuff. So I've definitely not been narrowed into one. I've gone all over. So
I think a
Great.
connection that people forget is like mechanical and electrical engineering interact with civil just as much sometimes too. You're thinking about like renewable energy and transmission lines and things. There's a big electrical component, but there's also a big civil component. So it's also not just other civil engineers.
Yeah.
That's all helpful for us to know for sure, because that's another question. I think students feel so nervous about being pigeonholed by their major that they choose and are always constantly looking to just ensure that they will have a job upon graduation. And with civil engineering, I mean, if you're dealing with infrastructure in general, it's going to be an ongoing process of creating and updating. Now, Matt, tell us about your design electives and technical electives that you did just recently in your undergrad.
Yeah, so I mean, I did a geotechnical concentration for my undergrad. So I took foundation design and other geotech courses, really learning about, oh, what can you assume? What tests are being done that you're getting from your like lab? So that was pretty interesting. But if you ask Professor Letchford, he'll say, gotta take more than just what your concentration is. So I took like concrete design, which all foundations are made of. So it was good for me to like learn about the concrete. And then we have like the technical electives. I did construction management, which was a lot of fun learning about the different process of like how does the construction industry work and how things are phased out. So lots of different things to do. I've done quite a few, so if there's more questions, I can probably elaborate a little more. But yeah, that's a little bit about the design and technical courses.
Awesome. And just for student perspective, during spring of sophomore year, you will take all of the intro courses in civil engineering that discuss those focus areas. So it kind of gives you a better idea of what concentration or focus you might want to choose moving forward by experiencing all that coursework at the same time. So that is something you'll stay tuned for sophomore year. Now, my next question, it's something that we've touched on a little bit, and maybe you guys can elaborate, but many students often ask us about what type of work the engineers do, specifically meaning, is it more hands-on or do you have more of a desk-oriented and analytical position? Can you tell us what category that falls into? And this question could be all for all three of you, considering you've all worked in the industry to some capacity.
So my opinion is that you can't do geotech without a strong field component. Even if you're more analytically minded and wanted to go down the technical route, there's just so much that has to be gained from in the field experience and understanding how problems are solved, like actually by contractors, that I would say geotech wouldn't be for anyone who doesn't like being outside.
Um, yeah, I'd say it's definitely a mix for structures too. Like it's hard to design stuff if you don't know how people are going to build it. And the field experience is definitely, I'd agree, crucial. Um, it doesn't mean you're going to be doing manual labor, but it means you get to see stuff, go out, inspect things. Inspection's definitely a big part of it. Going out, doing assessments of buildings or whatever you have it. Um, so it's definitely not, I would say, ever pigeonholed. You could be somebody that's purely analytical. Like if that's you, there is opportunity. If you want to be someone that's purely field, there's that opportunity. And if you want to be in between, you're kind of whatever you want.
In my internships, I had two that were completely field based. I was a surveyor one summer, and then I was on a construction site another summer, which really, like looking back on it, it's helped me see what's going on in the plans, actually, at now being in the field and learning what problems they occur and how contractors do things on the site and what they adapt. So that was good. And then at like Bowler, I was still doing inspections um, of like projects as well as being in the office. And then this past summer at Colliers, I got to see some field work being done on the geotech side, and still doing plans and looking at how those are. So I think there's quite a bit of field work, especially starting out, um, from my experiences.
Great, thank you. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about your undergrad experience, and this question is for all three of you. Can you share with us what your undergraduate experience looked like? And um, I know some of you did internships. Did you join professional groups, research, any other extracurriculars? Students are always asking us for recommendations of organizations or clubs, so if you have those you want to share as well, that would be great.
Oh, frankly, I really struggled with my undergrad degree. I came from a very rural public high school and had no idea what I was getting into, but also I felt like it never really got any easier the entire time I was in school. I always kind of felt like I was drowning. And I know that that wasn't a unique experience to me. I know a lot of people around me also felt that way. Um, I think there's just a systematic thing in engineering that ends up being like that. Um, but I would say I knew I wanted to do engineering, and that drive kind of pushed me to get through everything and learn everything I needed to. And even though I didn't do as much, didn't, I wasn't a part of like the American Society of Civil Engineers as a student, like I am now as a professional, which is a very valuable organization to join. I would put in a good word for it, but I would say your undergraduate student experience can be completely unique to who you are.
Yeah, drowning is a word I would use to my first 2 years. I too came from like my high school class was like 20 kids, and coming to RPI with like so many people that were light years more intelligent than me was like very overwhelming. Um, but I'd say first 2 years were tough, but once I got into like the civil engineering program side, there I was taking 21 credits a semester to try to graduate my co-term early. So definitely did a lot of that and extracurricular stuff. I was part of ASC, and I 1 year joined like the concrete canoe team, so that was a pretty cool experience that I would definitely recommend if you end up becoming a civil engineer. Doing that or a steel bridge, it's just kind of cool to build a canoe out of concrete and then go race it somewhere. But
I mean, I just finished my undergrad, but my undergrad has been far from normal. So freshman year, I was very reserved. I probably didn't talk to too many people, but I was a part of the swim team. So really, my first year was just balancing athletics and school, which was tough. Definitely getting lots of help from everyone I could. And then we got sent home for COVID. So then that was my first year, and then sophomore year, everything was online. So I couldn't join a lot of things. It was very difficult for me to make connections, even that second semester, sophomore year, when you meet everyone in your cohort and all those classes, everything was virtual. So it was hard. Like I felt very isolated. But Steel Bridge still is happening. So I got to meet people on that build team, and we got to assemble Steel Bridge every week. So that was lots of fun. Um, but it really wasn't until junior year that I got involved heavily in campus. I became part of ASCE. It only took me 2 years. And then I also became a tour guide on campus. So it really helped me learn how to talk and express myself. So I kind of did those things, and then I was also a part of GeoWall, which is after you take your geotech class, then you can go and every week work on building a sandbox and making sure it doesn't fail with the poster board. But it's lots of fun, and it's a small group to meet other people in your major.
That's awesome. Thank you all for sharing. And it's also kind of human to struggle. And I know that a lot of our first year students are going through that right now. So looking and seeing what the end result of all of your struggles is, for me at least, very helpful to kind of inspire students to keep going, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel and it's a good one. And even just the first year, it's kind of like it's hard because we talk about the classes that students take in their first year, and really there's not a whole lot of engineering specific courses outside of like IEA and the intro course. So it's hard to connect with the major when you're not taking the major specific classes, but they do come in sophomore year. So if you could sit tight, good things come. Um, let's talk about that a little bit too. Students often ask, as they're going through the tougher courses, if they really need these courses in your workplace as an engineer or even in an internship. Do you guys find that to be true? This question's for all three of you. And if it is true, can you elaborate on the specific courses that you find yourself using day to day?
Well, it depends upon what you felt like the toughest course was. Um, Sometimes I feel like I didn't get anything out of having to struggle through thermals and fluids, but that's because I'm a geotechnical engineer and a lot of the calculations that I use are more, I guess probably for all civils, right, Bill? You a lot of your fundamentals come from like your strengths of materials and your material properties.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, it is worth it because you understand kind of just how things work so much better that even though when you get into what you end up doing in your career and it's going to be different and you're going to have to learn a lot on the job, it gives you those tools to be able to figure that out and learn on the job.
I mean, for me, I think the two classes I probably used the most, probably fundamental wise, would be like IEA, which was like the statics portion of it. It's like you don't always want to do a time to do like a full computer model, but like if you know some of the basics, you can really work out a lot of stuff by hand and use as a rational check. And strengths of materials, like I use that every day. You know, like do theory moment of inertia and sectional properties and all that stuff. Yeah, that one I use every day. At least now. We'll see how much longer. But
I mean, for me, the intro courses, I think just developing an intuition on what should be what you're doing, well, at least structures class, what that taught me is learn how something is in tension or compression. But I think a lot of it is less on can you do the actual math, but can you understand why you have to do it? Um, and that's going to be used later on.
Like that answer. And you brought up some very specific courses that students always kind of directly ask that question about. So it's super helpful. On the flip side, or maybe it's in a similar vein, but can you tell us about a course or two that you did struggle with at RPI, and how did you overcome that? Uh, like IEAs being a popular one. How did you guys feel during your undergrad? And this is for all three of you.
Failed intro to structures the first time I took it. I was just honestly, I think I was very intimidated. I'm being called out in class every class, and I went into class really scared the first time I took it, and I wasn't taking in information because I was scared in class. And I think it improved a lot the second time I took it because the professor who teaches that class changed a little bit how he he taught. I don't know if you had the same experience, Bill,
Oh yeah,
being
no, I do
called
always,
on to answer questions.
I feel like I was always picked. Um, yeah, no, um, for me, like there's a couple classes, like I think I got like, I had a pretty good GPA, but like there's two or three classes I got like C minuses and B pluses on. Those were, like physics 1 and 2 and like chemistry. So like it was like the electrical part, the magnetism part, like all that other stuff, like the static stuff or like the this is a lever, that stuff was great, but beyond that, I struggled and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I probably should have used more resources available to me, like office hours and stuff, but I was kind of stubborn early on, like, oh, I can do it myself. So definitely don't get in that mindset, seek out help before it's too late.
I mean, I was very similar. Well, engineering dynamics was probably my hardest class because things moved. Didn't really understand that part, but I didn't go and get help, and I struggled every single day going to class and doing the homeworks and the exams. So use your resources. Because once I figured out like, oh, they actually want to help you, I started going a lot more frequently, and especially even in the civil engineering classes. Intro to structures was really hard with Letchford. And I attended almost every week. I met with him one on one, and he went over exactly what we went over in lecture, and somehow it made more sense. So use the resources that you have available.
That's great advice from all of you. And Maureen and Bill were matriculated before the hub was a thing. So um, our advice as hub advisors, in the event that you are struggling in any capacity during your first year, come talk to us because we are a resource in addition to the office hours, in addition to ALAC study tutoring sessions. Your academic advisor is always here to help you as well. So that's another thing I would add to that. Thank you for that, guys. Now, still talking about the courses you took in your undergrad, now that you have some experience as civil engineers, and this is for all three of you, what course electives do you feel would be something that would strengthen the marketability as a CE graduating seeking employment? And what I mean by this is whether it's Haas electives like your humanities or free electives, or even just drilling down to more specific technical electives. Uh, Maureen, you want to go first with that?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say technical electives definitely make you stand out, and they definitely help when you are trying to, learn on the job, because you're always going to be learning on the job. Um, I'm thinking about though, like what we look for when we're looking for someone who's going to be doing geotech is like was brought up a bunch of times. Geotech is very in the field, but geotech in the field is before there's anything developed, before the site has been changed at all. So I'd say any sort of electives that show that someone likes the outdoors is probably the biggest bonus to someone's resume or background, even ahead of being top of their classes, because this is RPI and we know there's a lot of grade deflation. Like everyone here is really smart. Even if your grades aren't the best in your class, you're still really smart. So yeah, I'd say the things that stick out are just having hobbies that people are passionate about and talking about those.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I'd probably also put on like electives that might help or stuff that are writing focused. Like I took like a creative writing class, and I have to say like I can't remember the professor's name, but he definitely made writing seem easier and how to communicate, speak plainly, and like reach your audience because you get kind of hung up in the weeds with doing math or doing drafting, but a good portion of your career, if you want to grow higher in your career, is like what Maureen is doing with, project, trying to seek out new projects and writing proposals. There's a whole world of writing that goes into it because you have to, yeah, like if you know what's in your head, that's great, but you have to communicate that to other people. You have to communicate that to contractors or to people you want to earn work from. So writing abilities are definitely a big plus.
Yeah, I think I that's one of a common interview question is how well can you write technically? So if there's a class that you can do on that, I think that will definitely help because the technical electives that you take are going to be pretty standard across the board from RPI, depending on your concentration. But if you know how to write and communicate what you want, you're gonna be better off.
Yeah, if someone had told me when I started engineering school that in 10 years all I'd be doing is writing all day long, I wouldn't have believed them. But yeah, having that ability to write is really, really, really key. I'm glad you guys both brought that up.
I am too, because I'll tell you, I know Bill mentioned proposals and writing proposals. We actually have a proposal class here at RPI, and it does fall into some of the pathways that students can choose. So just note that to all who are interested. And we also have our professional development courses that are required for engineers, which also has a little bit of writing in it, if I'm not mistaken, to kind of get the creative juices flowing and also to kind of learn that technical writing aspect. So thank you for that feedback.
Can I add
Uh,
another one before we move to
Heck
the next
yeah, go
question?
for it.
Thinking about it, I realized I took a class called Environment and Law. I think that was the name of it. And because of that, I learned all of the basics of law, um, and kind of how that interacts with like legislation for different municipalities and like smaller level things than what you normally think of as law, like towns and such. And I think that really gave me a strong fundamental as a civil engineer because there's a lot of permitting involved in doing civil engineering. And if you kind of can understand the legal side of things a little bit more, that's very helpful, especially because a lot of what we do also revolves around contracts. So I'll add a plug in for that class. I'm not sure if the professor who's teaching that is still teaching that, but
I think they
very
changed the
helpful.
title to environmental justice, but I think you get the gist. I think it's the same course, so that's helpful too. What about, did any of you take any economics courses or management? Do you feel that those would be something that can translate to your career?
I took economics and I took engineering economics too.
Mhm.
Engineering economics I found is very helpful because it's like it also helps you practically in your own life, I'd say. Being able to understand, annuity schedules or how to depreciate stuff. Like it's something that's it was definitely more finance focused. And if you ever want to get professionally licensed, I think there still are engineering economic questions on the exam. So having a little bit of knowledge there helps.
Definitely. Well, Bill, you segued that perfectly because I wanted to know if you guys recommended a master's degree. I'm thinking there's probably an answer there, and also your professional engineering license or even a PhD. What are your thoughts on further education?
So as far as geotech goes, I think it very much depends on the person. There's no kind of industry thing that one thing is better for you than another thing. Um, Certainly having any one of those is going to help you progress your career more quickly. You know, having more education than your undergrad or being able to get your licensure are all going to help your career, but not having any of those also may not necessarily hold you back. It depends.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's all about the path you kind of want to go. Certain paths you need to be a PE if you want to become project manager on probably a bigger project. Like You're gonna have to be the one stamping the plans. Um, I know for me personally, I really firmly believe my master's degree helped me a lot when I got my licensing exam. Like that was definitely one of the hardest things I've done, was that PE test. I mean, I think I studied for 6 months straight every weekend and every night after work. And it was rough. It was like testing you on everything you've ever learned. But the master's degree did help me there. And I think it was worth it. Um,
I don't really know for me. I know I'm getting my master's, but we'll wait and see if it pays off. But I know it's something that I wanted in the long run, and I only needed one more semester to get it done. So to me, it made sense just to keep going. So that's what I've done. And I still need to take my FE exam, so taking that next month and hopefully I pass.
Good luck.
Yeah, same. Thank you guys. Okay, so do you have any additional advice for students who might be considering major in civil engineering? It sounds like a cliche question, but I think that students are always looking for some kind of indication or a big light bulb that goes off to say, this is the right major for you. So, you want to share any experiences or advice you might have about that?
I'd say now is an excellent time to go into civil engineering. There is a huge amount of investment. There's a lot of money. There's projects that need to be done both on the private scale and in the public sector. And there's not enough civil engineers. And it's going to be a very stable, very well paying job if you get into it. And I would push it for that because it's gonna be an industry that needs engineers and you're gonna be very valued and needed. Um, but also I would push it for the moral aspect of it is you're ultimately looking after the safety, health, and welfare of the public. So
yeah, I would agree. I mean, I know personally we're always like been hiring and stuff, and it's like it's hard to actually. There's so many students go into like mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, and it's a very small pool of competition with a lot of people looking for you. So definitely, probably will not have a problem getting a job when you graduate. And
yeah,
it is nice to be able to do stuff that doesn't like necessarily like every business runs to be a business, but it is nice to do stuff that definitely always betters the public good overall, rather than just trying to, shave a millimeter off of a product's thickness to make an extra dollar. You're doing stuff that seems like it genuinely matters, at least in my opinion.
yeah, I think the American Society of Civil Engineers is really projecting like this huge gap in the amount of jobs that civil engineers will have to do versus the amount of people that will have to do them. So, you're going to be valued, so you're going to be paid well, and you're going to get to work on interesting things. So, it's in general, it's a good time to get into civil engineering too.
And I know at career fairs, there's never a line at any of the booths. So you can go up and you can talk to them for 30 minutes. Never had a problem going up and talking to them. So there's always a need. People reach out on my LinkedIn saying they want civil engineers. So that's always something there. And it's also you're helping people directly with your projects. You can see a direct impact on the community that you're working with. So that's something pretty unique that not all engineering majors get to do.
Those are great answers, guys. And I love the fact that um, because civil engineering is such a small major, I think being in a cohort small, you get to know your classmates well, correct me if I'm wrong, but and then to your point, you also added the bonus of the career fair, which is next week, by the way, the 28th. Um, never never too early to check it out. And this question goes along that side. I mean, Do you feel that there's a certain timeline when students should actively pursue internships, or do you feel that it is something that they should start doing right away? What's your perspective on that? And that's a question for all three of you.
Well, there's two ways of thinking about that. Earlier is always better, but also it's never too late.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, if you get the opportunity to get an internship early, definitely seize on it. I didn't get one until I was probably a junior, but or one that was relevant to civil engineering, I guess. But um, yeah, if you can, definitely do it.
I mean, I did one all 4 summers, so it helps. The more you can do, and you can figure out you don't like something, that rules out what you can do. So that helped me.
Awesome. All right, I have one last question, and then we're going to open it up to questions in our audience. And this is for all three of you. What do you wish you knew as a first year college student that you know now? I know it takes a little thinking.
I think I wish that I knew that there were places in engineering that weren't so, I guess, demeaning. Because it's a good portion of college, some professors, some schools of thought kind of are very, I don't know, mean about how they do things. And it's certainly out there in the professional world too. But I wish I would have known earlier on in school and in my career that it's just there's the sorry about the dog. That there's the variability in engineering similar to the variability in humans and how they interact with each other. You know, some people like to be very kind of straightforward about things, and other people like to kind of circle around things, and some people like to have positive reinforcement, and some people like to give negative reinforcement. And I think it just kind of would have been helpful for me as a woman in engineering, knowing that that was just kind of part of the world, how it works, and not necessarily all engineering was going to be that bad.
Tough question, but I mean, for me, probably and probably harped on a little bit earlier was that you really can't do it all yourself. Maybe like seeking advice from professors, and I was horrible about that. I never went to a single office hour, but just asking other people for help, like with that, or asking classmates for help. It's like you can't learn it all on your own, and not seeking advice just kind of it really hinders your abilities because you don't know you know what you know, but you don't know what other people know, and trying to find that's always beneficial.
I think for me, don't take school so seriously. I was very nervous about doing bad on any exams, anything like that. It's going to happen, but enjoy the 4 years while you can. Like, go out and have fun. And don't be so stressed about work. It'll get done eventually, but have fun while you can. Because later in life when you're working, I feel like you'll still have fun, but not as much.
That's that's all great advice, guys. Thank you. So I'm done asking questions. I don't know if you guys have questions or if our audience has any questions, but if you do, feel free to unmute if you want to ask a question to Maureen, Bill, or Matt. Pretty quiet. Well, either way, before we even continue, I'll give everybody a few minutes to think about it. But I want to thank the panelists for joining us today. Like I mentioned, I know that there was a civil specific class happening today, so I was suspecting our audience might be a little small, but I think what you shared tonight is really valuable, and we will share widely with everybody. Um, yeah, if there's any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap it up. Okay, well, again, thank you very much for joining us, guys. It was a pleasure talking to you, and you sold me on civil, so I'm gonna sign up. But thanks for joining tonight, and if you're okay with leaving your contact info, maybe perhaps if students do have questions moving forward, we can share that with them. Okay,
Absolutely. I have no idea
Yeah.
if what I said was helpful to anyone at all, but if you have specific questions for me, please.
awesome.
I'm not a scary person.
It was
I will
very
answer your
helpful. I
questions.
learned a lot.
See, there you go.
If you're
I,
worried about IEA, I'm at ALAC tutoring 8 to 10 tonight, so you can also come talk to me.
There's the plug.
hey,
That's what we need,
Matt!
Matt.
Yes, test on Wednesday, guys. All right. Well, I will stop recording. Oh, okay, so one question for me. How are you going to be able to get the recorded presentation? We will be posting that on the SOE Hub YouTube channel, and we're also going to share it with our advisees in the chat and email. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to wrap it up, and once again, thank you. It was a nice evening, so I appreciate you all taking the time out to join us.